The NHL Conference Finals are now set. We're down to 4 teams battling it out to win the 2024 Stanley Cup. Today we're going to preview and give our predictions for the Conference Finals, and that's coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to talk about here today. We're going to preview and do some predictions for Round 3 of the 2024 NHL Stanley Cup Playoffs. Round 2 was a lot of fun. Probably fair to say, to me, it was better hockey and just more entertaining series than we had in round 1. Round 1, typically, historically speaking, is the most fun. It's the best. There's the most number of games going on at a time. But there was just too many of those series that just were not as close as I would have liked. So round 2, to me, was a lot more fun to watch, just from a fan perspective. But here we are. We're down to round 3 now. Round 2 is now completed. We had Game 7 last night between the Edmonton Oilers and the Vancouver Canucks. Of course, I'm not sure if this video is going up on Tuesday or Wednesday on YouTube, so either way, the Oilers series, they just completed last night as I record this video here on Tuesday afternoon. So let's take a look here. In the Western Conference Final, we now have the Edmonton Oilers doing battle with the Dallas Stars. Now, a lot of people have said Dallas might be the favorite here. Clearly, they're the top seed in the West. Had a phenomenal season. They've been, in contention here for a while. Is it their time to win the West and go to the final, or can Edmonton finally prevail here and push through with Connor and Leon leading the way? So taking a look, of course, the Oilers have already beaten the LA Kings and the Vancouver Canucks. The Dallas Stars have beaten the past 2 Stanley Cup champions with the Vegas Golden Knights and the Colorado Avalanche. So definitely, I think it's fair to say that the Dallas Stars have had the tougher road to get here. They've taken out 2 powerhouses in the last 2 Cup champions. Not to take anything away from LA and Vancouver, but they're not really at that level of of team just yet. So I think the Oilers, they had a good matchup. They handled LA relatively with ease. Vancouver provided a real tough matchup for them, and they prevailed in 7 games. But Dallas, I think, had a tougher road. We can hopefully all agree on that part. However, looking at the breakdown of how these teams compare, the regular season at this point definitely, in my opinion, no longer matters. But if you look at what's been going on right now, the Edmonton Oilers have the best special teams in the playoffs. They are ranked first in the power play and first in the penalty kill. 37.5% power play percentage, 91.5% on the PK. That is phenomenal. We are seeing a different Edmonton Oilers team here, and in my opinion, in Game 6 of 7 of this second round series against Vancouver, they've made some adjustments, and they are playing a little bit of a different style. And we are seeing an Oilers team that are completely bought in to doing whatever it takes, blocking shots. The team defense structure is a lot more solid. Even McDavid and Draisaitl are getting in on the block shot action, and that's how they prevailed against the Canucks. So to me, special teams in the playoffs are huge, and the Oilers right now have the best on both sides of that going into this third round series. The Dallas Stars have a pretty good power play, 29%. It's ranked 4th right now in the playoffs. The penalty kill, not so good, 69.2%. 11th best. If you think about how many teams make the playoffs, that's not great. And 69% in the playoffs regular season any time of year is not great. The Dallas Stars are going to have issues if they get into penalty trouble with this team. The Oilers, are always a strong power play. So that is going to be a potential storyline to watch here, is this top power play against a penalty kill that so far in the playoffs hasn't been great. Now, I think you can make an argument that the Dallas Stars do have a deeper roster. I'm not sure of the health also of Roope Hintz. I know he's been out the last few games. Is he going to be able to play in this round? I'm not sure how serious his injury was. That's going to be something to watch here as well. Jake Ottinger, you'd probably give an edge to Ottinger over Skinner or Pickard. Again, Ottinger's had his moments, but for the most part in these playoffs, he's been really good. So I think it's fair to say Edmonton has the higher end talent. I don't think anybody on the Dallas Stars is anywhere near McDavid or Draisaitl when it comes to offensive production. Their back end, yes, Haskinen's really good. He's not Evan Bouchard, though. Not the way Bouchard's been playing in these playoffs. He is really good, though. So again, offensively speaking, the Oilers' top guys are definitely stronger than the Dallas Stars' top guys, but that's not how Dallas is built. Dallas is built with depth, and then it's a team, more of a team game. But the way, and normally I would say that'd be an advantage, but the way the Oilers have played the last couple games against Vancouver, we've seen a different Oilers team. For the first time, and I don't know how long, under this era of top players in Edmonton, I really get the sense that everybody has finally bought in to do whatever it takes. And the team defense was so good. I mean, they brought Skinner back in for Game 6, which was risky. But the way the team played in front of them, they made it easier on them. Same in Game 7. They had a couple little lapses, and Vancouver took advantage, which is the only reason why it was remotely close. Otherwise, the Oilers really were the better team in, 80 to 90% of those games. So at the end of the day here, I think this is going to be a very interesting series. I think it's going to be very close. I think what one team is strong with, the other side is, able to combat. Obviously, like I said, the ability for Dallas to stay out of the box is going to be massive. They do not want to be giving these Oilers power plays. I can see this also where the Dallas Stars have had a little bit of a break. Nothing. It's not like they've been off for a long, long stretch, but they've gotten a few extra days here compared to the Edmonton Oilers. The Oilers have to travel. They're going on a high here. I can see the Oilers even going into winning the first game, kind of like what we saw with Boston going into Florida. I thought, Boston's coming off this 7-game series with the Leafs. Florida's had time to rest. They're probably the better team overall. I expect Boston to probably be slaughtered in the first game because they're going to be exhausted, and they weren't. It was the whole rest versus rust thing. And obviously at this point, I wouldn't be shocked. I can't say what's going to happen, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Oilers go in and even take the first game. But I can see the first 4 games after you get 2 in each barn, it probably being split. And we're going to probably come down to games 5, 6, and 7 deciding it. I am going to pick the Oilers in 7. I'm in my original bracket at the beginning of this year, at the beginning of the playoffs, I picked the Oilers to win. They're still in it. I have no reason to go back on that. The way I've seen them play in the last 2 games, I really think they can do it. But this is going to be the toughest series of all. Dallas Stars are not going to go down without a fight. I won't be shocked if this prediction is wrong because both teams are very deserving. They're built differently, but they can both stand a chance here, and they're both, in my opinion, for different reasons, strong contenders to win the 2024 Stanley Cup. So I'm going Oilers in 7. But, man, this Dallas team is going to put up a strong series, and it's going to. I think it'll come right down to it. And it's almost a flip of a coin. It's going to be that razor thin. But we'll see. Like I said, the big question for me is the health of Rupe Hintz and the power play of the Oilers against the struggling Stars PK. Special teams quite often decides series, and that could be it. In the Eastern Conference, we've got the Rangers and the Panthers. Different series completely than the Western Conference, I think. Both these teams had similar paths to get here. The Panthers beat the Lightning and the Bruins, whereas the Rangers beat the Capitals and the Hurricanes. Obviously, the Rangers have gotten there in 1 fewer game, slightly easier path, but really not all that much. So let's compare some of the key results here. Goaltending and special teams, like I said, they quite often will be series deciding stats. So let's see how they've compared so far. Looking at the power play, the Rangers have an edge, 31.5% success rate, third best in the playoffs amongst playoff teams. The Panthers are at 22%. Regular season, that would be a good number. In the playoffs, when you have more limited opportunities, not so much. That's 8th best in the playoffs. PK-wise, the Rangers also have an advantage there, 89.5%, second best, but the Panthers are third best at 86.1%. So to me, it's going to have to be a case of the Panthers' special teams getting a little bit better because right now, even though that edge might not be huge statistically, it is enough that I have to give an edge to the Rangers here, especially on the power play. When the power play is stronger, leads to more goals, can quite often be game and series deciders. And at the same time, like I said, when you get the penalty kill on the other side, slightly less successful against a stronger power play, it's a recipe that the Panthers are going to have to be better if they're going to have a chance to win that special teams battle. Because like I said before, like it quite often can be series deciding. Goaltending is going to be very interesting. You got Shesterkin against Bobrovsky. Shesterkin's 8-2 in the playoffs. Bobrovsky's 8-3. Shesterkin does have the best save percentage amongst all the starting goaltenders that are remaining in the playoffs, amongst the 4 starting netminders, with a .923 save percentage. Bobrovsky's been .902. Goals against pretty much the same, 2.4 for Shesterkin, 2.37 for Bob. So at the end of the day, Shesterkin definitely stopping a higher percentage of the pucks. So again, advantage Rangers. Looking at their top performers, there's not a great deal of difference here when you compare, each of their top players. You get Tkachuk and Barkov, 14 and 13 points respectively. Where you get Zibanejad and Trocheck, their top 2 centers, each have 14. Then you got Panarin and Kreider with the Rangers, 11 and 10 respectively. Where you get Verhaeghe and Reinhart on the other side with 11 and 9. Goals and assist wise, like they're not a great deal of difference overall. So at the end of the day, I really personally think, looking at these teams, I would argue that the Ranger roster, to me, is just a little bit deeper. They've, to me, had more consistency with their lineups. I do also think that there's a bit more, overall experience. You could say there's more experience on the Rangers side, but the Panthers got a lot of great relevant experience last year. Losing in the Stanley Cup final, obviously winning the Eastern Conference was a great run for them. Obviously came up short. Last year they get into the playoffs as a bit of a wild card last minute effort, whereas this year they came in as a much higher ranked, more serious contender that obviously teams and everybody took a lot more seriously, and obviously thought that they'd have a chance to repeat what they did last year, or at least come close at the very least. So at the end of the day, like I said, you compare a lot of things on these rosters and how they've played. You got great coaches too. You got Paul Maurice, you got Peter Laviolette. Both of these men have taken teams and had tons and tons of success. The only missing off Maurice's resume is a Stanley Cup. Laviolette has taken, I don't know how many teams now that he's taken to the conference or Stanley Cup final. Like everywhere he goes, he has success. And it seems to have success fairly early in his tenure there. You're going to have a case in this series as well. Paul Maurice, coach of the Panthers, obviously doing battle with some of his former players that are from the Jets that are now with the Rangers. Jacob Trouba, of course, captain, worked with Maurice for a long time. Blake Wheeler, who does have a chance to return in this series. I do believe Wheeler is cleared and can possibly play in this round. He may not go in Game 1. That's not quite clear yet, but he should be available to play. I know there's still some question marks around Philip Hedl. But Wheeler, I do believe, will be able to make some appearances here. So it's going to be a bit of a storyline in that sense here as well. And of course, like I said, all kinds of, especially the Russian guys that are already, there's a lot of friends on this team, between Shesterkin, Bobrovsky, Panarin, etc. So obviously it's going to be tightly contested. It's going to be close. The Rangers, they've been giving off 1994 vibes this year. A lot of people are comparing this season to the 94 season, a lot of similarities. Of course, they won the President's Trophy. A lot of other things in this, just in the area of New York, and now their season has gone, lines up and compares. It's kind of funny that way, how it's almost like one year mimicking another year. But at the end of the day, I do think the razor thin margins here, but because of the special teams edge and how they've performed in the first 2 rounds, I am going to give a slight edge here to the Rangers to win the series, but I do think it's going to be another long one. I'm going to think both these conference finals, I'm predicting 7 games. Now, sometimes you think you're going to have these razor-thin margins and these really tight matchups, and the later the playoffs go, that's sometimes when you get more of the short series, the 4 and 5 game ones. I really don't think that's going to be the case here. I hope I'm right, because obviously as a fan, selfishly I want more games and want it to be more entertaining, and of course shorter series tend not to have that factor. So we'll see what happens. But for me, it's Oilers, it's Rangers. These teams both have connections to each other historically a lot. Not so much the present day, But of course, looking back at some of the top players, like the Gretzky and Messier connections, and the Glenn Sather, and lots of connections and history between these two franchises. They're both haven't won a Stanley Cup in over 30 years. It's 30 years exactly for the Rangers. I think it's 34 for the Oilers. And if I'm wrong in either of these cases, it's been a long time for the Dallas Stars too, and of course Florida are looking to do it for the first time. So at the end of the day, it's nice to see either a new or long-time champion be crowned here. It's going to be somebody who hasn't won in a long time or a new one. So at the end of the day, it's going to be a fun round. Let me know what you think. Those are my predictions, my previews for this series, and we'll talk further down in the comment section. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.